Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rinpoche.
Good. I hope the morning has affirmed, perhaps in some small way, that the world is still here and that there is hope, there is insight, and that we can begin to see some sense of order, perhaps being restored, even though it may appear that we are in the midst of chaos. And as I was just sitting and did some prostrations in front of the Buddha, first is to say, as I just said, good morning. I hope it's been peaceful and pleasant so far. So I ask of the Buddha, please bestow your knowledge and vast wisdom upon us so that we can see clearly the direction on this path that we are beset upon from life to life. And in my head, saying, please, what can you say to them? Not necessarily, even though reading from text, but from my own personal experience, as I was thinking how many times these cycles that we go through, that at least myself, I have lived through, and how many more might I have the pleasure to live through, even though it's as difficult times, that we're still in the process of living and learning how to live. And again, I'm referring this to myself, how to live in the face of adversity and having the insight and the strength and the courage to take those seemingly disadvantages and turn them into advantage. Wherein lies the blessing in this particular situation where we find ourselves, and that we have created for ourselves, knowingly or unknowingly, as I was reading in one text, and I don't know, I was reading and made me smile last night, and I thought of Thupten from the great mystic Sri Aurobindo, life divine. And it is life divine. What is the option? The life undivine? So again, he makes the statement, as I looked up into the space last night, Brahma is within all, and within all is Brahma. Brahma is all. And so I change whether you say Brahma or Buddha. So again, as I looked into the space, and he was talking again very clearly about the knower, the subject, and the knowing and the known. So as I looked into the space, I thought, oh, this is so funny. Space looking into space. We are so drawn outside of ourselves, which is so apparent, blazingly apparent, during this challenging and time of transition and time of awakening, and how much we are drawn outside of ourselves. What we need to fulfill our existence, or even what we need to fulfill and substantiate and validate our existence. And those things have been curtailed, and we find ourselves thrown back to the ground, the source. And probably my image that just popped into my mind, we don't know how to play in the sandpit by ourselves anymore. We need diversion. I can remember as a small child playing on the merry-go-round and swinging and running up and down on the bleachers and playing in the sandbox. And sometimes you had someone to play with, another friend, and sometimes you know how to play by yourself. But you didn't have all the distractions that pulled us outside, at least I did not, and that you had no choice. You didn't even know a choice. That was just how it is, that you stayed home, you stayed within yourself, you entertained yourself. you created and you fantasize, and you made a world that you were compatible with, that came from the inside as opposed to the other way. So that statement of whether we say Brahma or Buddha, and it's statement that I had or concept, that Buddha is the manifestation of all. And as the Sri Aurobindo points out, animate or inanimate, that all phenomena is permeated with the essence of the Dhammakaya, or the Dhammadhatu, Dhammadhata. So this great expanse of space. So Urgyen Samten Ling Gonpa, the heart drop essence of the vast expanse of space, so to interpret it that way. But then when we think about it, again, talking about looking at the space, who is looking, the experience thereof, and what is known to be looked at is this spatial primordial ground aspect of our own enlightened quality. So looking out, I said, look within. The space that is perceived outwardly is the space that is perceived within. Who is the knower of that space? Once, Rinpoche, we were with, as I've told you once before, there's another colleague, his name is Noah. And Rinpoche said, we must look to the knower and let go. And in an amusement and affectionate way, everyone looks toward Noah and laughs. But it is like that. It's to look, who is it that is doing the looking? Who is it doing the asking? Who is it that now is in the uncertainty? Who is it now that is in the fear? And just reading, looking at one heading from Shantideva, who is it that is being vigilant? Or who is it that making the choice not to be vigilant in terms of the practicality of where we find ourselves today? So again, trying to organize some thoughts and reading through some texts, and I said, put the book down. Look to the inner text. So I hope you look to your own inner text, your own inner Dharma, meaning you look to your own truth consciousness, again, Sri Aurobindo speaks of. So the truth consciousness, or the truth of your consciousness, and that what it knows from its own wisdom and knowledge, and how it orders our place in the universe. I think when we awaken to this level of truth consciousness, that we begin to establish a order in the universe that arises from loving kindness and compassion and from joyness and equanimity. And again, as I stepped back off the porch and I looked at the flowers that men were so gracious to bring, and there were 4. So I think, oh, I wanted to have 5. Then I said, no, only 4. Oh, why 4? The 4 immeasurables. And then I thought maybe they don't realize when that word, simple word, immeasurable. And I know it may seem like things are dire and depressing and just cascading down, but really they are in transition of change. It is a very dramatic change, but it is change. And so looking at those 4 roses, and I thought of, as immeasurable loving kindness, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joyousness, immeasurable equanimity, beyond measure, beyond the confines of space and my limited capacity to conceive. It must be, as it says, beyond the amount of all of the grains of sand that exist on all of the oceans throughout the totality of the universe, immeasurable. So no matter how difficult it may become, no matter how fearful or worry or uncertainty, we come back to the loving kindness, we come back to compassion and joyousness and equanimity that's immeasurable. So our fears, as I again was reading from Gonpa, our fear and our compassion focuses back onto me. Oh, what can I do for me? So I can feel more peaceful, so I can feel more grounded, more comfortable, etc. So it's always back to this ego-centeredness, ego-cherishing, I am important. And then I try to think, when others, if I am feeling like this, me, what others might be feeling, which is even more magnified. Why be so self-centered and self-cherishing and only think about yourself? This is the way of the solitary realizer, which we have to start somewhere, but expand it out. We are now at a planetary awakening. The planet is awakening. Very few times, maybe we go through recorded history, great wars brings humanity to a central context. But now we have another type of war. We have this virus which has encapsulated at a planetary level. I think that's pretty amazing. And it's like a great negotiator. Sometimes my master, Buddha master, would do this. He says, first, I must make them all upset. They get all upset. Now they're arguing back and forth. Now, what do they have in common? They have the argument of disagreement in common. And that becomes the wedge upon which a great negotiator will enter, is when they seem that everything is about to fall apart and there is no constructive dialogue whatsoever. Then the negotiator says, now we're at a common place. So the commonality that perhaps we are in is that there is a collective uncertainty, a collective concern, a collective fear, a collective, I must be in defiance to the status quo of the society in which we find ourselves, which I think becomes and can be the catalyst that just might bring us together. Then again, reading Sri Aurobindo, great mystic last night, saying that even though in the midst of chaos, the only way that we can define chaos is because we know the opposite of chaos. And by knowing the opposite of that chaos, by living through the chaos, I think we begin to look for ways that will bring us, take us forward. I was thinking just by the fact as we were knowing that we would be on Zoom this morning, this way of now the technology has allowed us to gather in greater numbers than we were before. I think this is a blessing. There was however many people may be listening or about to practice. This would not have happened maybe the 6 months ago. It was like, oh, barely being able to come. But now we have great blessing. And so I think for me, the change and the awakening is occurring. I think this sense of wanting to find, we talk about peace, but it's always, I want peace. And the gesture is out. No, the peace has to start within. And I think we all know that. We all, everything is already known. Again, Sri Aurobindo, he says, the known and the unknown is known. It's merely whether we wish to awaken to the knowing of it through the knower, through the primordial aspect of, he uses the word super consciousness, the creator, super consciousness, the creator, or meaning the enlightened quality that lies within, that knows the truth. The knowing of truth lies within each one of us, or the enlightened quality is in with each one of us. So in your continued daily activities, in your practices, look for the blessings, look for the brightness, that you must be a source of hope for others, that you're not engaging in this negative, pedantic rhetoric that seems to be regurgitated from decades to decades and eons to eons, the same garbage about changing and this and that. We must change. The only change, as I was saying in the little blurb, I don't know if Lama put it out or not. I stepped out onto the porch and I looked down at the weeds, and then so I got like this little Buddha. So, and I thought, the ground is always fertile in its primordial state. But the seeds of the weeds that have been planted will continue to grow until we extricate, liberate, until we liberate the root of ignorance and the desire and anger. And as long as those three poisons are in place, then the weeds will continue to grow. Our weeds, as I said, is the weed of ignorance, the weed of desire, and the weed of anger. But now we see it manifesting divisiveness, meanness, hatefulness, prejudice, violence. Those weeds are growing. But sometimes maybe we forget, and as I looked at the path, the ground is still pure. Well, it depends on what we put into the ground, what will grow. Again, Gonpa, you put apple seed in, then you expect to get an apple tree or orange or grapes or whatever. Somehow we have this misnomer is that we can change the systems that we're involved in outwardly without impacting or changing the systems inwardly. So I employ myself and I propose to you, as I said in my little note, are you really ready to change? It appears to this point, perhaps the burden is not heavy enough for us to put it down. And we can see it reflecting just in our own state in terms of various behaviors. And who knows, I'm maybe speaking from ignorance, who knows the causality and the spread of this particular virus and how it may be curtailed by our actions. But the question I keep asking myself is, are we ready to change from within? The real work, and we all know this, has to be done in the changing of how we construct our own realities. And again, thinking this morning, what is it that fashions and makes a lattice of our constructs? It's how we appear to the perceptions of symbols and concepts and words, which which brings about various feelings, our behaviors, our actions, again, and the constructs of those realities. There's a multiplicity of realities that are occurring, but the one singularity is all of those realities that we presently see are the constructs of one entity, and that's the mind itself, either the awakened mind or the unawakened mind. And in both of those aspects, they both have the same primordial enlightened ground. So the enlightened aspect of the Buddha or Brahma or Godhead or whatever you want to call it is in the awakened mind and in the unawakened mind. So again, Bipon Rinpoche, that which appears either at a conventional or ultimate level are of the same nature. They both have the same qualities. It depends on which direction you want to look. So what direction are we looking? Are we looking in the direction of the fears, the constant uncertainty, and suffering, etc.? Or from the awakened state that we take on the personal responsibility to change within ourselves and hopefully become a catalyst, spoken or unspoken, that may be a support for others to move at the same thing. So as I had said before, and just sometimes I say, I need to say it again to myself to make the stake deeper. Are we ready to change within? I am ready to change from within. This I speaking in its conventional sense, must awaken to a higher realization in order to make this transformation? A transformation of the limited conceptual base that is conditional, circumstantial, and causality. If I can truly transcend my own constructs of the reality that I have created and see beyond that, then the transcendence of these symbols and concepts and words, which Namakaze pounded into me, not to be shackled by those things which a society brings forth. I don't have to buy into that rhetoric, that dialogue. that one has the ability to recognize their own inner truth in relationship to that which is being presented by a particular group or society or individual. The evolution of consciousness takes in the full scope of what is occurring. So are you looking at things in a larger context, a global context? What is happening to our species? What is happening to the human race? What is happening to the various enclaves of societies around the planet and how they are continually to evolve or de-evolve? And we have two: evolution is occurring and de-evolution is occurring. If we de-evolve and do not arise to the evolution of consciousness, then, as we can see, the species will cease to be because it does not choose the capacity to adapt. We have the capacity to adapt, and the evolution is already at hand. Whether we sort of get on that vehicle and move in that direction or not is our choice. Every day you make choices, consciously or unconsciously. And those choices, our actions, again, are the constructs of the realities in which we exist. So we are not separate from that which is happening around us and within us. Where do we make the metaphor, the bridge between the physical and the metaphysical? So these are the questions I ask myself: is how might we come to terms with where we find ourselves in our culture? Our culture, I believe, is at a precipice of cascading downward or lifting upward. So I do think we're at a precipice where we have to leap and trust that we can fly. That even though it may seem dire, but in the midst of that, it is starting to change. So again, saying last night, interdependence. His Holiness the Dalai Lama was speaking briefly about the whole concept of dependent origination, or they used to interpret it as interdependent origination. Independent origination, cause, circumstances, and conditions are all interconnected. So then I thought, at a conscious level, that we are all interconnected, that I'm able to sit here in this little hermitage seat, like a meditation box, and hopefully in some way connect to you. If I am able to connect to you just through a thought and through these images, etc., then we also are all interconnected. The fabric of consciousness, we are all connected in time and space. And it appears is that we have a great disturbance in that connectedness, in that fabric. Going back to trying to remember these little things that all of my teachers said. And Lama Kazi said, in the darkened room, one lit match will illuminate that darkness, and we all can see. So then I thought, then he said also, if you take one match and light it in a box of matches, they all will flare up. So may we be that candle or that match. And in one quadrant of the spatial temporal context, we begin to alter the vibration. This is what the great masters do. They alter the vibration, I think, at least in my madness, is that it shifts, and the shift has already begun. But sometimes before that occurs, there is a great disturbance as a catalyst. So we meet this morning to begin to bring about a positive vibration, positive thoughts, positive actions, positive motivation, positive intent, to begin to alter and bring a balance back into this discord. So things, yes, seemingly are out of balance. But as more and more, and we're just one small community. Imagine how many communities are having the same conversation at the same moment around the planet. Everyone can see this discord and violence and prejudice and hatred, we know it is not correct. We know that this is not the way to go. Like I've said, when I would do something wrong, my mother would say, I'm going to tell you one time, boy, you know what you need to do. And they would walk away, because the rightness of what we need to do and feel to do, once we stop and be still and look within, will dawn. So your purpose is to continue to put into the space, into the fabric, a thread of love, the thread of compassion, I should say, the thread of kindness. At least start with kindness, and then compassion, and then love, and then equanimity. And really, the equanimity should go first. But just as we can think negatively, we also can think with kindness. It is a choice once we awakened to the importance of making choices. Sometimes growing up, can see we live in a culture where one person would talk about bill of sales, and we have bought goods we don't need. It's like those stupid publisher and clearinghouses. The pages are filled with garbage, and they're constantly playing on our hopes and dreams and desires, which most of it's, we see many here, we'll give you a little bit of this so we can take a lot of bit of that. But just a lot of junk. We buy things. I don't need that. I got so much stuff I can't even throw it away anymore because I think I need it. But throw away the garbage inside that we don't need. We don't need hatred. We don't need prejudice, this divisiveness, this struggle at all of the various areas that now have been revealed. They were already there. They've been revealed. The covers have been ripped open, and all of the demons are flying out like piranhas and birds of prey that are just feeding like vultures on dead carcass. We are the dead carcass. We are dying, and we're being fed upon within and without. When will we wake up? And that's why, again, I should say, probably enough. Are we really ready to change, or would we ready to continue to cascade down into further darkness? So we're at a tipping point. So I think it's so important every day when you practice, whether you speak to someone or not, that energy is going out. Sometimes you can just feel the darkness surrounding you like a shroud covering you, and it's not the shroud of awakening, the shroud of darkness. And I just want to rip it away, see everything in its stark realness, and make a choice to change. So may this day be the beginning of the seeds of change. It is. What will you change? Like free association, the reason I pause is to ask you the question, what will you change? What will I change? How may I be of greater benefit to others by being a benefit to myself, but not making it about me? Again, Shanti Deva, make it more so about others. Your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, those whom we don't even know. May they all be blessed. May their fears and their tensions and their stress lessen. May in some way that there is a change, that they receive what they need from within. A kind word, a job, some financial support, an improvement of their health, access to that which would help to improve their health. So what will we change? The Kazi method: have trust, have devotion, have faith, conviction, and commitment. to leading a life that is filled with kindness, compassion, and love? Why is it so difficult to be kind? Why is it so difficult to have compassion, to see beyond oneself and have the desire that others are even more happy than me? And when they are happy, rejoice in that. And then to love oneself, to love others. We're always looking about me. Now shift that ground and to others. Think about them. So for the rest of this day, be kind, be compassionate, and be in love. What other choice would you like? Would you like to spend the rest of the day in anger? The rest of the day in hatred? The rest of the day spewing prejudice? The rest of the day cursing and yelling and screaming and all of the other things of defiance that do not necessarily bring about inner change, and therefore there will not be any outer change. So we can chant and visualize and sit on a seat, but the moment you rise from that seat and walk from your meditation room, what do you do then? When you open the refrigerator to get some snack or food, what do you do then? When you're walking with your loved one, walking your dog, what do you do then? In your everydayness, do we bring those various qualities in? A society that was based on kindness, a society that is based on compassion, a society that is based on love. I look at some of these, sometimes I'll watch a documentary about these communities. I want to find or create, maybe that's what I'm sort of a little bit, what I want to create, that community that is based on kindness, on compassion, and I want to go live there. I see the one bikini, I see Jainla, you help me, you want to go live in this community where people are kind to each other, regardless of gender, or sexual, or racial, or economic. Why can't we live in that community? Why can't I exist in that environment? Surely you must ask that question. It has nothing to do with whether you're Buddhist or Jewish or LDS or whatever. That is part of the shackles. I am this, I am that. I need a symbol, I need a concept, I need a thought to define my existence. And that definition of what I am is different from what you are. Therefore, we have no point to connect. If we don't throw down our spears, and in this case, if we don't throw down our guns, and as we are doing spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, killing each other, poison thoughts, poison actions, poison environment. When does it change? Even as a child, I would look around and ask myself, this is not right. Why do I have to go into the bathroom that says Negroes only? Or drink from the fountain that says, this is for the Negroes. I've been called so many names. I just heard someone, I'm an African American, I'm an Afro-American, I'm a Black person, and I'm a Negro, and then it cascades down from there. I go, I don't need you to find me. I have enough trouble doing it for myself. I want to live in that community where people are willing to look each other in the eye and speak with loving kindness, even though it may be in disagreement, but it's done in a kind way. I guess, as if I could be so bold, help me create that community. Surely you want to live in that community where you're not disgruntled and angry at yourself all day long and confused and living in fear. And I know it's a utopian, crazed concept, but I would rather be crazed this way. Surely your heart must be aching because it wants to express kindness and compassion and love. If it doesn't, then why are you practicing? And if you don't believe it's possible, not believe, feel, afraid to feel the possibilities. And without that, there is no transformation, there is no transcendence, and consciousness, which is already evolved, cannot be experienced. Anyway, enough, too many thinking, too many thoughts. Take a breath in for a moment. Breathing out. Rest on your seat this morning. The motivation and the intent, again, reading from the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. The development, the foundation, bodhicitta, the altruistic thought. Why do I engage in practice? So that I may fully realize the enlightened quality that lies within all sentient beings, for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be happy and have a cause of happiness, and from that, may they never be separated. May all sentient beings not suffer, nor encounter the causality of suffering. And may they never meet with that which brings about suffering. Now, we know it's not going to be like that, but that's our intent. That's our wish. And may, again, I be a catalyst to bring that about in some fashion, large or small, through my own actions. I'm hoping that this is what you think every day. This is what I will do for the benefit of others, and with no expectations, no attachment to wanting something to come back in return. Even though we know, yes, let go and let be. Constantly hearing the words of Lama Kazi, look to the knower, look to the thinker, and let go. Open your heart, open like flower, all right? Non-discriminating wisdom that knows the nature of all phenomena in an instant. You have this quality, don't you? So again, as we would start with Lama Kazi, to cleanse and purify all of time and space and that which arises, dwells, and ceases within. From the primordial ground of our own enlightened or consciousness, the Dorje Sempa appears, radiant, the manifestation of all of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, all of the peaceful and wrathful entities or deities. And Dorje Sempa bestows the blessings that purify and cleanse and transforms and liberate, like an auric blanket around the planet that radiates out in the 10 directions throughout the whole cosmos. Through every realm of existence, may they all be purified. Anaradu Mebuwa Zawaziri Mebrea Zaramu Zudumetum Zirum Guru Hum Ha 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 Hu Bhagavan Zawada Badramane Samaya Zadua Badruzadu Samaya Mano Halaya Badruzaru Denova Didu Mebuwa Zudogaya Mebuwa Mebuwa Anaradu Mebuwa Zawaziri Mebrea Zaramu Zudumetum Guru Hum Ha 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 Hu Bhagavan Sada Dada Gada Badramane Muzavenza Bawa Samaya Zaduarum Badazata Samaya Mano Badaya Badruzadu Denova Didu Mebuwa Sudogaya Mebuwa Zubogaya Mebuwa Anaradu Mebuwa Zawaziri Mebrea Zaramu Zudumetum Guru Hum Sada Dada Gada Badramane Muzavenza Bawa Samaya Zaduarum Badazata Samaya Mano Badaya Badruzadu Denova Gadu Mebuwa Zudogaya Mebuwa Zubogaya Mebuwa Anaradu Mebuwa Zawaziri Mebrea Zaragama Zudumetum Guru Hum Ha 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 Hu Bhagavan Sada Dada Gada Badramane Muzavenza Bawa Samaya Zaduarum Badazata Samaya Mano Badaya Badruzadu Denova Dudu Mebuwa Zudogaya Mebuwa Zubogaya Mebuwa Anaradu Mebuwa Zawaziri Mebrea Zaragama Zudumetum Guru Hum Bhagavan Savadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zaduarum Badu Zadu Samaya Manu Balaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Sudogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zubazire Mebrea Zarama Zudume Sedum Zirum Guru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zaduarum Badu Zadu Balaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zubazire Mebrea Sudume Zedum Zirum Guru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Savadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Baru Zadu Samaya Mano Balaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Zaragata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Sadua Zumadu Zadu Samaya Madu Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Savazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Sadua Bumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Savazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Savadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Sudogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zubazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Sadadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Sadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Subogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Sadadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Namaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Sadadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Zadua Dumbadu Zadu Samaya Manovalaya Badru Zadu Denova Dedu Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Zubogaya Mabova Anaradu Mabova Zavazire Mebrea Zaragama Zudume Zedum Guru Bhagavan Zavadagata Badramani Muzovendevam Samaya Sadhu. So you have recited and visualized and sat in the proper position of purity of body, purity of speech, purity of mind, purity of knowledge, purity of wisdom. In the same way that we can have very disturbing and hateful thoughts, we can also have thoughts of kindness, thoughts of compassion, and thoughts of love. If we choose, perhaps we don't realize that we have the ability to make a choice, that the thinking is not cemented, that the thoughts are changeable, and the symbols and concepts are nothing more than constructs of our own doing, whether they are fed to us from within or fed to us from without. Again, I remember or just saw myself sitting in Montclair, New Jersey, visiting with, spending the day with Lama Rinpoche and Gyaltsen Rinpoche. And as I've told you in the past, we were having tea and little cakes. And in the middle of the conversation, Amakazi stopped and he took one of the teacups and he said, "It's neither this." And he took his cup and he said, "It's neither that." And he put a fork in the middle, nor the point that lies between the two. So we are focused inwardly. Oh, it's about me. Or we are focused outwardly. It's what they are doing to me. Or there is some neutral, doesn't matter. She says, neither one of those, let go. So in this sitting, and we'll sit in stillness. Try not to move. Actually, be still. Again, from the pews of Buddhadharma, I remember, listen and you shall hear. In stillness, you shall know. Ask and you shall receive. What are you asking for? When you listen in silence, what is the truth of your heart? Or you disgruntled and fearful and negative? Do you recognize it? I'm talking to me, not you. If it fits, then that's up to you. So again, I'm trying to recall all of the pit instructions, direct oral teachings that I received. So sit in silence, sit in stillness, slowly breathe in and slowly breathe out with mindfulness and awareness. The peace you seek lies within. Fear is our construct. And again, just a little bit more, when we say to contemplate impermanence and death, sometimes it's just, oh yeah, impermanence and death. Now we have a blessing because it is so to the surface, like in the old way when they would write with the chalk and they'd make that sound, that the thought of this virus or the thought of our jobs, our money, our lifestyle, everything is right there for us to look at and use as a tool to transcend, to transition, to transform. It's not something in a book about impermanence and death, to contemplate death. And come face to face with it, Namakazi would tell us. You must think about it like a pebble when you're walking on a hike and you get a rock in your shoe. It just keeps bothering you and bothering you. And finally you sit down, you take the shoe off and you take the rock out. So we have to take the rock out. Take out our fear. Come face to face. Namakazi would say it's not a morbid thought or morbid affair. It's just a natural process. We are in the process, even in this little short time, not one of us have gotten any younger. We are all closer to our liberation, to our transition, to our exit. How would you like for that to be? I would hopefully it would be filled with kindness and compassion and love. Take the position of Bharachana, please. Get all your scratching out. Drink your water now. Still, you go, I'm not going to move. Like Buddha, I will sit here for how many? The 49. I'm going to sit until the enlightenment dawn. I don't care what martyr does. You go sit in the forest and the mosquitoes. Once we went, me and another practitioner, we sit in the forest and the mosquitoes come and we don't move. We don't care. We feed the mosquitoes. Then another practitioner, he would sit and the leeches would come. He doesn't move. Right? You just sit in this. You sit like mountain. The wind travels easily in and out of the body. And the mind is like a burnt out fire. the ashes, they have no life. It just means that we are open and spacious in our mind. Take a breath in, breathe out, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. Don't count the breath. Just be aware of the breath, entering through the channels evenly, exiting the channels evenly to sit. Breathing out. And again, don't be so quick to move. Pay attention. The looker, the hearer, the one that smells and tastes, the one that has an awareness of their tactile sensations, and awareness itself knows its presence. We are so enamored, shackled, enslaved by the symbols and concepts and thoughts without and conventionally within. And sometimes, as it says in the various texts, the mistaken identity of that reality as being the only realness that we relate to. As you were just sitting, perhaps there was a moment of separation from the hooks of samsara in its various manifestations. And that harmony and the peace and inner quietness maybe for a moment appeared, which is always there. But we are so entangled with the perception of a reality that is outside that we lose the continuity of the connection to the primordial ground from which that perception of knowingness arises. So in all of the texts which you have and read, and I hope you capture and understand, that this consciousness or awareness or Buddha nature or Buddha mind is the construct of that which is perceived in all of its various aspects. But the ignorance is not recognizing its true nature, that it is ever-changing, transient, and that we are the progenitors of its construction. And therefore, we can also be the progenitor of the redesigning. I think now we are in a phase of redesigning our culture, our attitudes, and even the symbols that we have purported to govern us in our everyday living. But then again, not to forget, they're just an illusion also, just an inner creation, and they can be changed at any moment. So again, that's why I said, I think at hand is a wonderful moment of transition if we take advantage of it and awaken. If we do not take advantage of it and awaken, then it will be to our disadvantage and we'll continue to cascade down. But that's our choice, isn't it? You see as you go through the day, what choices do you make? And I hope when you lay your head upon your pillow tonight, that you can say, I was a kind person to myself and to others. I was compassionate toward others and myself. And I had love for myself and for others. That is the vibration that I put out into space this day. You see, you do not argue or gossip with your loved ones, even with your dog and your cat, that you do so with an open heart of acceptance and kindness and compassion. If we're not changing at the most basic level, then all of these other things are worthless, just show a magician. But coupled or in the essence of what we do is change. And that's why I think maybe some people run away from it, because it's like looking in the mirror. You cannot hide from yourself anymore. And we've arrived at a point in our culture now. We cannot hide from the prejudice and the divisive and the violence and the fear and the worry and the uncertainty. We can keep saying those words over and over again, but not to latch onto them. Why not look at, we have the opportunity now to exhibit kindness and compassion and love and joyousness and equanimity, that we can drop the shackles of divisiveness. And I use this word interdependence or dependent origination. Just as I see the few people on the screen, I don't think I'm just talking to this square technology, which is amazing. Hopefully, I want to connect to each and every one of you and pierce your heart. And you know, the light in your heart is just waiting to burst out. And when you prick it just a little bit, then there's an explosion of kindness, explosion of compassion, explosion of love. And that you're not just thinking it, but your hair rises up and you can feel, oh, it's overwhelming. You know, someone says, oh, I'm so happy, I'm crying. I wish you each would cry because you have these qualities in such abundance that you want to give to others. I would hope like this. Like I said, I want to live in that community. Maybe you saw the pictures. I'm up at my monastery. They invited me in, but all the little monks, we just laugh and play and train and sit and eat together and live up in the clouds. I go, what am I doing here? So I hope you have these experiences here. So again, take breath in and breathing out. So many things, just thinking last night, oh, what to read, no, what to say. Are you really ready to change? You know, change. I'll keep saying these things to myself. To dream, have aspirations, to transform through doing, but to transcend through feeling. You can talk all you want, but not until you actually do we start to see a transformation. And in the doing, it has to arrive from a clarity of motivation and intent that is to be a benefit of a larger extent for others than just our own selfish self. Always about me. And I was saying last night, you're always thinking about you. What about the other person? How are they feeling? What are they going through? How might I be of help to them? Through skillful means and methods. Again, that's your knowledge and wisdom. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to change. But sometimes the motivation and the intent is ill-gotten, so that the outcome also is not successful. But if we start, as I've said, with a fertile ground, a fertile seed, we have the proper nourishment, then the outcome will be beautiful flower or tree. So may each one of you be like strong tree. Right? I was listening to one mystic. He says, when the great winds come, why do the great trees never fall? Because their roots are so deep. They go way down into the ground and their roots are pure. So when the winds come, they are not moved. I want to be like that tree. The leaves may flutter about and the branches may be disturbed, but the trunk and the root will never be deterred. It will never move and never be uprooted because it is the ground of purity. I hope this is how it is for you. And that's why we start with the statement, most precious Guru, please think of me. Bestow the blessings that will free and ripen my mind, so that I may realize as quickly as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. So the way I've tried to set this up, the way my teacher set this up, you start off by laying in the proper motivation and the proper intent and having the proper direction to shoot the arrow of request. Most precious Guru, please think of me. Bestow the blessings that will free and ripen my mind, so that I may realize as quickly as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. Most precious Guru, please think of me. Bestow the blessings that will free and ripen my mind, so that I may realize as quickly as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings. So you've asked, like it says, ask and you shall receive. But you must also have the quality of devotion. You must have the quality of faith and the quality of trust. These are very difficult things for us. We always wonder why. Again, as I told you, Lama Kazi, you people, why do I have to do this? And he would, in a very clear way, would say, I didn't ask you to ask me why. I asked you to practice. And if you practice, you will come to your own inner truth of understanding of the why. So now you take refuge. Every day we take refuge. You do really? You take refuge. So you take refuge of Buddha, Lama, Buddhadharma, Sangha. But it must be a feeling of conviction, not just mouthing words. Namo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo So Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Lama Lagab Sujo Sangha Lagab Sujo Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo Gino Lagab Sujo. So again, having the thought, having the feeling that one has taken refuge in Lama, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And so to allow yourself to settle into that feeling. Then, if one has taken the refuge vow, then you have received. And in receiving, then you say, I also must give something back. I will take a vow personally as those in the past and the present and in the future have done, are doing, and will do. I will become part of that fabric that is there to be of benefit to others. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to liberate them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transcend them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. In the same way the sound permeates the space until it dissipates, may your vow permeate all of time and space and never dissipate. So you have taken refuge and you have taken the Bodhisattva vow. You have two commitments to fulfill. One, until you have arrived at the full realization of your own intrinsic enlightened nature. And the second one is to continue that intent in this lifetime with this body until hopefully through karma that you will arise or arrive again in the precious rebirth where you will continue in that life to come as you did in your last life before, And as you do in this life now, what you have made the commitment to do, as all of the great bodhisattvas and masters and Buddhas of the past have done. So we say the verse of the Deshigepa, may we too receive their blessings and become one. Om Nanze Nande Ranze Nurudru Be Daji Doju Zenga Tsumba Yi Sangye Dodan Gidon Babe Zo Dunda Tazo Tajo Taje Zo Drome Gargo Tablen Gondon Gon Zambe Garba Gidra Babam Ba Bunda Gumba Taje Tabaje Lugo Taba Zabra Baba Ni Zenje Damje Nango Dambe Ba Yeje Cheba Zerla Tamba De Sanzan de Bedaje Babewa, Jewa, Jeba, Gela, Takaku, Samba, Juno, Baben, Doje, Jenre, Jenwan, Gumbo, Jambe, Zayi, Nimbo, Demba, Namba, Namba, Nimbo, Bado, Toto, Nuba, Doji, Baga, Donjon, Donobu, Tuba, Dubre, Namayi. Jaje lana daje baje do janjo nimba gela tasa do jenje doje daje doje nga dunjo banza ngengo ngamala danda dunda bungo bareru nyu genje nyu gudu de renje doje gege doje jojo lewa jenje gege ma jojo duro de babe dashi nambo gela satalo Zamba Jumbo Dinjo Jembe Bu Mindo Drundan Dumbo Ludujon Robanye Bondo Lova Mindo Lando De Gudu Jutsu Dando Dundo Jejen Banyo Rejo Dende Gazon Zazo Nito Gide Taji Jinje Gunwe Gila Tabzalo Dojo Jiwe Jowa Dumba Yido Jiwa Jiwa So you can again just imagine like a dream. When you're dreaming, the same mechanism as I was thinking last night is when you dream, it's very real. Like I had a dream of looking into a vast, it was a huge warehouse and it was empty. And then I thought for a moment, oh, that's not a good sign. Then I thought, oh, I'm looking into the vast expanse of space, of the emptiness of my own mind. And so I can still, it was huge space. So then I thought, oh, this is very good. So in the same way, like dream, you visualize, oh, the bodhisattvas have just bestowed their blessings upon me. And you take it in. And even if they were, but you were completely doubting and discounting it, how would you receive any benefit, even though you were receiving the benefit? So this is what Shanti Deva tells us also. Jonam jele egele jon de don ze be zongola gumbo ganyen pa jindo jumbo dige zon. Jonam dada zamba ye zonge do dange don la zanzo nebo dige ba. Taba da ne gabdu ji zirab nanze nanze zombe zenze dondo da sange dondo nege de zombe jendo zunge do deze nanga namba do wa deze nego ba deze doje nego ne do wa derga so wa so chonam jele gere jon de do de bezon Ula gumbo ganye ba jenjo jumbo dige zo do wa da zamba yi Sange do dange don la zanjo nebo dige ba da ba da ni gabzuji Shirab nanze danze be zombe jenje don do da Sange don do nege de zombe jenjo zange do jeze nanga namba na Do wa jeze nego ba jeze doje nego do wa darya zawa so Jonam jele gere jon de be zon gola gumbo ganyeba Jinjo jimbo dige zon do wa da zamba yi Sange do dange don la janjo nebo dige ba da ne gabzoji Shirab nanze danze be zombe chanjen zondo da zange dondo nege de Zombe chenzo zange do jeze nanga namba do wa jeze nego ba All phenomena arise from their causes. Their causes are explained by the Buddha. Cessation of these causes too are taught thus by the great sage. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the misery, suffering, and the causality of all infectious diseases that brings harms to sentient beings in this world through loving kindness and compassion. Again, I hope as you say these words every session, every day, that they're sinking in like the seed is being put into the furrow of the ground, and that you're nourishing it so it really can grow. Otherwise, you're just mouthing words and nothing will happen. There'll be no place to go. So they must become personal to our own heart. And they may become personal as the desire and the motivation and the intent to affect or be an affective agent to be a benefit to others. Otherwise, the practice doesn't work. And it's merely a vehicle, again, in and of itself, constructed of concepts to lead us, hopefully, to discover our own inner truth. Each one of us, each one of you knows what the truth, going back to R.D. Laing, the divided self. The divided self that's caught in the outer trappings of the illusion of that which we cause our reality, and the truth of the consciousness within, which creates it from its own blindness, but knowing that it has a true awakening state. It's like we're always in conflict. That which is without blocking out that which is within, and that which is within is screaming to get out, to express itself back to those three things I will keep using: kindness, compassion, and love. It is the ground of your nature. You already know these things, but we look the other way and cover it up with a blanket of our own darkness. Rip off the veil and open your eyes so we can see. And going back to that concept of dependent origination, if there's one corner of the fabric that has been damaged, then the whole fabric is affected. But if there's one corner of the fabric that has been amended, then the whole fabric can become whole. Each one of us must become a mender of this fabric of consciousness, of darkness, which really is the consciousness of enlightenment. The enlightened consciousness is ever present. It is already there. Alter the vibration. Maybe, again, it's some out of the nonsense, doesn't make sense, but at a quantum level, at a metaphysical level, we begin to alter the fabric of the consciousness, the fabric of the vibration that is blanketing at a planetary level. If there's one thing, truth we all have now, we all have the truth of fear, of uncertainty. It is with all of us, very raw to the surface. I don't want to be affected by this virus. Well, if you don't want to be affected by this virus, then you must change your behaviors. I was just reading Shanti Dev was talking about to be vigilant. Vigilance is shackled by ignorance and desire and anger. So that is the true virus that's within. That is the weed that is growing and creates this reality which now we exist in. But the blessing is we see it. And if you can see it, then perhaps we can begin to change it. The Buddha was a seer. He was a seeker, a visionary. He was one who changed the fabric of a society. He changed the fabric and revealed the true nature of consciousness itself. Tabge Junti, Zagi Rinzundun, Zogi, Mundu, Dongi, Junjun, Zogi, Lumbo, Joa, Jibegu, Zagi, Gobo, Jula, Zazalo, Tayata, O Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa, Tayata Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa, Tayata Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa, Tayata Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa, Tayata Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa. Tayata Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa, Tayata Mune, Mahamuna Yezoa. Zomane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana Zomane mane mahamana yozoa mane 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 mane mahamana Zomane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane Zomane mane mahamana yozoa mane 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 mahamana yozoa 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 mane mane yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane 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 mahamana yozoa mane mane mahamana yozoa mane mane yozoa mane mane yozoa mane 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 mahamana yozoa mane mane yozoa mane mane Again, like in the dreaming, with the wakeful dream, we visualize we're receiving the blessings directly from the Buddha that purifies or purifies, cleanse, awakens, transforms, and liberate our body, our speech, our mind, our knowledge, our wisdom. Our wisdom eyes open and we can see clearly that this occurs for ourselves and it occurs for others, that we are at the time of the great awakening. We are awakening to the true nature of the reality that we have created. I would also like to think we are awakening to the true nature of the realities of love and compassion and kindness and equanimity and joyousness that we are creating. So as Shantideva talks about in developing true bodhicitta, having the foundation and the ground of loving kindness and compassion has to start from within. I want you to think about, what is it that you are passionate about? What is it that you love? Not just a thought, but what do you have a feeling all the way into the marrow of your bones? What do you love? Let that spread throughout your body and let it emanate out into space in the 10 directions. And with that feeling, encompass the whole planet and beyond. Is that it's just expanding out. Let it be very strong. Now I want you to think about something that irritates you to no end. Maybe it's me talking too much. Please have compassion for me. So you keep that feeling of love to that which irritates you, or you make, well, this is my enemy, or you're upset about, blanketed with that. Now indifference. So you just maintain this constant glow, constant feeling, not a thinking, a constant feeling of what do you love? Starting with yourself. Then think about all the people who are now who have died, who are suffering at this very moment, who are angry at this very moment, disgruntled and fearful and stressed, etc. Give that to them. And then from them, take all of those negative qualities into the flower of your own heart space. It dissolves like smoke from an incense. Just for a brief period. Practice Tonglen, the constant emanating of loving kindness and compassion. Then gently breathing out just a short period. And in your mind's eye, again, you visualize all sentient beings, including oneself, have been blessed and purified and cleansed of various obscurations, etc. That we have been transformed from the ordinariness to the extraordinary quality of our own enlightened aspect. And as a result, liberated from attachment to samsara or something called nirvana. And breathing out, and we dedicate the merit. Lama Debajanya meja da jowa bonzon zomba da rene zemne yonzo do dene zenge demba yen gwa di nudu sake gerbo duju ne doma nyo nyo ba dene shela go ba sho. Then during these difficult times which were prophesied would come and may increase, but we also have a benefit. As the darkness increases, the light becomes even brighter. Those lights are you. You are the ones that must bring this, not new era, because this has been going on for a while, this awakening, this transformation and evolution. It is part of the cosmos. It is the order, as Sri Aurobindo said, it is the order of super consciousness that even though it appears to be chaotic and disjointed without harmony and peace, but in essence, it is the foundation of it, because peace and unpeace, if using it that way, must come from the same ground. It depends on which way we look. We have been looking with false eyes. Now we must open the eye of wisdom and see the potentiality of what can occur where we are now, each one of us taking responsibility. Some will arrive at the moment of awakening, and some will continue to move toward the moment of awakening. But change is the constant in the universe, and change will occur one way or another. We may not see it, but it is occurring. And the one who taught about this, the liberation of the mind, is Guru Rinpoche. So we invoke the presence of the great teacher. Urgyen Samten Ling Gonpa Gyaltsen Bema geza dombola zazen joji gudrune bema june zazura gudu gando mambo gege zazu daru ge janje loje zazu Guru Bamazide, Hong again, Yuji, Nazan, Bemageza, Tongola, Gyaltsen Joji, Guru Nebema, June, Zazura, Guru Gando, Mambo, Gege, Zazo, Darugi, Jenji, Zazo, Guru Bamazide, Imao, Jojo, Jogi, Gengi, Sangam, Joji, Jojo, 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 Wajambo, Naga, Zendo, Doje, Dorene, Mama, Jugi, Gulazo, the Bonia, Bemaja, Nelazo, the Geno, Gidrumbe, Zanganzo, Consol, Yoton, Yoten, Ye, Genja, Wajibe, Doji, Tegra, Nezo, Zonzo, Lama, Lozo, Zogula, Zubade, Urgyen Bemaja, Nelazo, the Mejan, Doji, Jimbo, Due, Domata. Galan the Dergi Dondo Deta Maju Dado Danzong Nama Tupe Gubazuade Urgyen Bamaja Nela Zuade Gunzon Dozon Gera Jera Jem Bemagera Nena Zujuria Kada Lama Nala Zuade Zene Zenbe Zuru Zune Doje Nojo Nobe Toriaria Nandro Dundo Dumbe Dozonge Gode Dundo Deme Ozo Jela Zuade Sejen Gunje Dola Dresser Dreme Ozo Nintendo Zozo Osa Longe Namge Namjoba Jeme Lembe Jela Zuade Duzon Gunge Bema Jenye Jojo Dugo Uzo Sange Lembe Lobe Zonjo Gunzon Jambela Zuade Wame Joge Genge Budanga Duzo Zamge Guje Gudunge Ranzem Gudu so we Lama Nala so Re-Roman Jogi Yogi Botando Duzu Sange Goji Go Ransom Go Sudun Zeba so we Lame Jela to Wade You are Kundu Yanda Lamada Jome Jogi Bana Lojo Jensatana Jaman Sone Sone Tuji Jinji Go Vango to Oma and subtle body cleansing. Breathing in, release to clear the nadis. Zoom yi rivi rivi ganga gaga ganga tadana yawalawa shaga zara ume dana idubrava idugada yawata kensa yunaro ye vamini maha samana soha Zeza Ritsa Ramani Bhavadaye Soha Zebadra Samaya Za Badra Amrita Kundele Hanna Om The Ranjing Hunde Uzo Tobe Lama Tandezo Bebe Gunjen Joke Gaba Gojonjo Dudze Gabzo Yu Mezawa Mebe Gowandon Genam Gabaza Samaza Rugna Randro appears Sange Dodan Zoge Donama Genzo Badu Dani Gabzo Daji Zenzo Yebezo Namge Jola Benze Zenge Jobajo. Sange Dodan Zoge Donamla, Genzo Badu Daniga Daji Zenzo Yebezo Namge Jola Benze Zenge Jobajo. Sange Dodan Zoge Donamla, Genzo Badu Daniga Daji Zenzo Yebezo Namge Jola Benze Zenge Jobajo. Sange Dodan Zoge Donamla, Genzo Badu Daniga Daji Junzo Gebezo Namge Jola Benze Zenge Jobajo. Da Damo Urgyen Randa Timba good. Then we acknowledge all those helpful aspects. Baja Maha Sri Haragaron Dene Dorje Torva Gurgu Ram Yam Sarva Judo Sarva Dhamma Zube Judo Domende Dende Rinpoche Ninjin Chen Gichewe Nodra Torma Daro Doro Nomo Bonzo Zobo Dojen Gaso Jembo Oma Oma Lume Pate Saparida Rarba Satsamaza Zata Tarba Pachi Dede Bamacha Namo Sabatata Yamishu Mugube Sabatata Sapa Ranam Soha Namo Sabatata Yamishu Mugube Sabatata Sapa Ranam Soha Namo Sabatata Yamishu Mugube Sabatata Sapa Ranam Soha Gada ne lado do tembo da do de do gada ne lado do tembo da la de gada ne lado do Kume Pade Yariye Zom Baza Mazri Arago Dene Doji Torva Gurgu Ram Yam Gam So Harva Sudo Saba Dharma Zorve Tudoro No Tume Dende Rinpoche Ninjin Gejewe No Dorma Doro Bonzo Zombo Doshan Gazo Jimbo Oma Hung Saraputraga Saraza Saba Begin Namo Sabadaga Yamishu Mugube Sabata Mogate Sapa Rana Mininam Gurihaniram Balinda Dayesoa Saba Begin Namo Sabadaga Yamishu Mugube Sabata Mogate Sapa Rana Mininam Gurihaniram Balinda Dayesoa Saba Begin Namo Sabadaga Yamishu Mugube Sabata Mogate Sapa Rana Iram Gurihana Iram Balinda Daye Soha. Urgyen Samten Ling Gonpa Duba Guji Dorje Dorje Gonda Duba Guji Dorje Mebe Demba Da Midewa Guji Nurin Tindan Deva Nese Bemela Namba Guji Urgyen Samten Duba Gonda Duba Guji Dorje Dorje Gonda Duba Guji Dorje Mebe Demba Da Midewa Guji Nurin Tindan Deva Nese Bemela Namba Guji Senjen Janje Jowa Dan Dowa Gunda Dowa Guji Dorgan Dan Dorgan Gunda Dowa Guji Donge Mebe Jumba Da Medewa Guji Nurin Dan Dewa Nene Zebe Mela Namba Guji Tato Mando Joje Jowa Dan Joje Ringe Gunden Zoba Yi Gyowa Zeze Daje Zeze Ba Tamje Zoba Tamje Chigu 사실 보지 조정해서 좀 불발론세 내 생각이 생기는데 매도 뭐가게 도면은 너센다 줘봐줘 이don라도 만들어나 가나다 다야네 사실 보지 조정해서 불발론세 내 생각이 생기는데 매도 뭐가게 도면은 줘봐줘 이don라도 만들어나 가나다 다야네 사실 보지 조정해서 불발론세 내 생각이 생기는데 매도 뭐가게 도면은 줘봐줘 Idonrana Mandala Ganada Daya Mesaje Boje Georgia Meso Ramri Brothers and Edits and Magazine in the middle of way. Turgan in the Zenda Jobajo, Idonrana Mandala Gamadaya Badruzata Samaya, Manupalaya, Badruzata Senova, Zizuzeta Nebova, Sudogaya Nebova, Anarata Nebova, So was it in every other Zaranga was a didn't sit in the room. Oh, Bhagavan, so that I got the Zarman and Musavan, Bavama, Samaya, Satu, so, so, Drupna Randro Badra Samaya Zaza Munje Munjo Munje Gazoje Gide Bulanye Toje Nuna Randala Zoade Nuna Randala Zoade Chiwo Dava Jenge Jengan Pade Jora Yunye Jomedra Druno Tange Nende Yang Adi Buddha Tisa Bhadra Agam Bhatam Bhube Dube Aloge Gande Niwade Chapta Ruta Chapta Gande Raja Seba Shetanama Data Buddha Kaye Mani Peme Om Mani Peme Om Mani Peme Om Mani Peme Zomani Peme Om Mani Peme Om Mani Peme Om Mani Peme Om Mani Peme Omane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, omane beme omane beme hungry, 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 omane beme Zomane beme hungry, omane 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 beme Beme hungry, omane 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 beme hungry, Zomane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, Zomane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, omane beme hungry. Zomane beme hungry, omane beme omane Zomane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, omane beme Zomane beme hungry, omane beme hungry, Zomane beme hungry, Zomane beme hungry, Om Ai Uri Lele O Alanga Gaga Ganga Zaza Zana Dada Dada Na Dada Dada Baba Baba Yawalawa Shaga Zara Yesha Mumbada Zata Zamaya Manu Padaya Babu Zatu Denova Dedu Nagova Gurugaya Nagova Gurugaya Nagova Amarada Nagova Zavadiri Nebrea Zarana Mazudame Siddham Siddham Guru Hum Ha Ha Ho Bhagavan Sara Data Gata Zadrona Nimuzavente Bhava Maha Samaya Tatuha Omedama Hetu Bhagava Hetu Gata Haya Vata Gata Yunduroha Devamenemaha Saman Nasoha. And go to the Dhamma Palace. Namo Guru Be, Namo Guru Be, Namo Guru Be. Om Shri Benza Heraka, really home Jo Home Be. Dene Banjo and Joine Ram Yam Gam, Doje, Doje, Gonjo, Zero, Damze, Ye, Me, Doje, Jen, Zeze, Namge, Toge, Guru. is Ram Yam Numa Ho Soma Ho Oma is Sri Goze Goze Doje Yeje Le Yeje Mage Taba Soma Doje Doje Doge Nando Tende Goje Doje Doje So Mahagala Gumbo Gato Gige Tate Mudo Gado Batem Baba Dende Tabazo Mago Godo Doje 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 Doda Doma Teje La Baje Doje 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 Dende Neje Jamba Zumba Zo Geje Beba Jamba Zoge Dobe Dobe Zumba Zumba Ye Denye Nyuje Numba Gende Ge Doje 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 Zumba Zo Geje Geje Doje 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 Gaba Baye Nando Doge Doje Gazo Doje 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 Dojo Name Danje Teme Go Doje Nome Doje Doma Tena Zawe Bajo Radende Sazun Sazun Gazun Zoze Ge Geba Gazo Ge Tade Bado Nonde Donde Donde So Doge Doje Lekba Doje Je Zondo Zondo Toma Doje Dodo Lame Moje Gemba Na Doje Gade Toma Toma Tena Zawe Doje Tombo Na Dobo Doje Gaza Nando Doje Doje Gaza Sando Doje Toma Toma Doje Doje Donde Doje Toba Tombo Yoge Zenge Tambazo Me Dado Bema Beda Tambazo Mejen Jumba Junda Jumba Je Tamse Punge Toma Teje La Tundam Ganga Nande Bambando Ganje Yena Jumba Sange Dobe Doje Tamba Tamba Ye Tunju Nyoja Numba Tunge Ge Tunju Doje Doje Tambazo Doje Nwange Jumba Jumba Ro Saje Doba Jumba Sange La Manye Punze Saje Saje De Tunju Tunju Nanye Tunju Do Hangage Toma Hige Tadema Teten Nambo La Zendo Mara Doga Mojo Dema Dema Tanto Tempo Sajo Ra Ora Dojo Tempo Sama Dena Sundo Namo Ganjon Zonge Da Doje Pinze Pinza Tendenza Kanya Jode Koje Janamge Dojo 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 Deje La Sheje Mato Dojo Dojo De Duma Mendo Bendo Dendo De Mawa Jeje Mawa Sa So Badrozata Samaya Manopavaya Badrozata Denova Dedu Meboa Sudogaya Meboa Subogaya Meboa Anarado Meboa Zawaziri Mebrea Zaragamma Sudome Situm Guru Hung Ha Ha Ho Bhagavan Zawada Dagata Badramani Muso Nazamaya Zadua Badrozata Samaya Manopalaya Badrozata Denova Dedu Zugaya Meboa, Zugaya Meboa, Anarado Meboa, Zavati, Nebea, Zaramas, Sidum Guru Hum, Ha Bhagavan, Sawadabagata Varumanim, Binzebawa Mahasamaya, Zadua, Badru Zata Samaya, Manu, Badru Zadu Denova, Dudu Meboa, Sudogaya Meboa, Zugaya Meboa, Anarado Meboa, Zawati, Nebea, Zaramas, Sidum Guru Hum, Ha Bhagavan, Sadadagata Varumanim, Muzamandabawana, Samaya Satu. So once again, we have come to the end of period. This 2 hours goes so quickly, and I apologize. I talk too much, but just mumbling and moving your beads, etc., doesn't necessarily bring about the effect of the realization. We have to go deeper, the transcendent moment where you actually begin to experience directly. Then Lamakai, no experience directly, then no knowledge, and no knowledge, then no wisdom. And no wisdom, then how can we open and see the path forward so we can actually be an agent of change? You are the agents of change that start from within. So take a deep breath in, hold the hands, and just letting go everything. Ah, ah. And as you continue to sit, as we began, the quality of kindness lies within you at this very moment. The quality of compassion, of the primordial ground, and the all-embracing, immeasurable, non-differentiating or non-discriminating love for self and others, for others and self, for others. Open in your body, speech, and mind, where it's not just mouthed words, that we go through our days with the intent and the motivation to be kind, to be compassionate, and to love. Breathing in. Now breathe out. Breathe out into the dream of the reality that we have created. But perhaps breathe out into the dream of the reality that we would love to create. One of kindness, one of compassion, one of love. Wouldn't you like to live in that type of society? Wouldn't you like to live in that type of community and household? And wouldn't you like for those qualities to spring forth spontaneously from you, for yourself, and for others? Or do we wish to continue to exist in this worn, torn, weed-infested reality, which has entangled us, but it itself is just an illusion? There's a blessing there. And the blessing for me is to say that this is the time of awakening. Short way. Home to this and get renting you give you the need to do nothing by ye. Timber Dubana, Zembendens and goods and doing it and turn that message give you got to don't get so gently do good. Other than my good, doing your way, you give you what you don't know. No, there's engage a lot of Bajo. Timber bag your that may shape it. This thing you put in your like a timber, no, Dodge of bag, timber, you ring up a Tashi show. 2 things I paid in Jilon Chamber. Said to them, but not that she made and so made that made them pass it. Said to those some good base and Gucci, Chenzo, Senjo, and Boje, Magia, Banangi Gucci. Kepa number made by ye, when they go to the so Gazo, Daye, don't wait on dojo, go and dojo, Jimbeji dojo. Not your way by the Mekon so then Dumbarun that Tashi, da le show. Diet, Unga, they got the better than the bodies or diet among they got it. Better got the better than the bodies or diet among they got the better got the better than got the bodies so. When we conclude this session, check what thought and what feeling stays with you when you arise from your seat. That will be some indication of which direction your consciousness is going. I hope it is one of, again, one of kindness and one of compassion and one of love. Everyone have a wonderful day. And I will say bye-bye until we meet again.